New York City, June 1776. Pretty little New York, perched on the southern tip of what the Indians called Manhattan, the hilly island. The town now comprised 4,000 wooden and brick buildings within less than a square mile, linked by cobblestone lanes and sidewalks of flat stone shaded with beech, locust, elm, and linden trees. Dutch houses with steep gables and red or black glazed roofs and grand doors in the London fashion. Here is found Dutch neatness combined with English taste and architecture. Already the narrow island had been widened with artificial land along the riverfronts for wharves and warehouses holding Indian silk and Irish linen, whale fins and seal skins, turpentine and candles. Sail lofts, rope walks, breweries, a nailery, and foundries that made stoves and ironwork pans could be found, along with coppers turning their cask and milliners stitching headwear in defiance of the British prohibition on colonial hat-making. Distillers converted molasses to rum, and the usual taverns, gin mills, and ordinaries now crowded the waterfront, serving sailors in tarred breeches and jackets. A census in late April counted 268 liquor vendors in Manhattan alone. War was about to begin in New York City. The swarthy city is now subject to all the inconveniences of a garrison town. Lieutenant William Tudor, the Continental's judge advocate, wrote a friend in the spring of 1776. The fife and drum are continually dinning out our ears with Yankee music, and we have few sights more entertaining than the parading and marching of the ill-dressed mugraffins who compose the army. Hardly a shot had been fired in anger around New York, but perhaps half or more of the 25,000 residents had fled their homes in fear of the bloody thing to come. The city looks, in some streets, as if the plague had been in it, and many houses being shut up, a loyalist pastor told his diary. Those who remained were confined at night by a military curfew. We all live here like nuns shut up in a nunnery, one letter writer complained. More than 12,000 soldiers filled tent and duckboard cantonments near the Collect Pound, the East River ferry slip, and other camps. Not all the men arriving were disheveled. Delaware troops wore blue coats faced in red, white waistcoats, and pewter buttons. Few regiments could be seen in hunting shirts with matching leggings or in gray striped waistcoats and castor hats with silver buckles. But most still looked like plowmen or barkeeps, their offices distinguished only by the colored cockades on their upturned hat brims. At least 2,000 were desperately destitute, wrote Colonel Joseph Reed, who had left his law practice in Philadelphia to return to the Army as Adjutant General after Horatio Gates took a combat command. Nearly as many men carried firelocks in such dysfunction, he added, as to discourage rather than animate the user. Sparks flew night and day as smiths made musket barrels, bayonets, and ramrods. The upper floor of the Bridewell, a new almshouse and prison on the New York Commons, was converted into an armory and munitions plant. His Excellency General Washington returned to New York at 1 p.m. on Thursday, June 6th, after more than a fortnight absence in Philadelphia. To welcome him back, a New England brigade paraded down Broadway in military step. 4 regiments marched under the double row of trees around the Bowling Green at the foot of the town, then circled the oversized equestrian statue of George III, depicted as a bare-legged, blue-eyed Marcus Aurelius, Striding back up the avenue, past St. Paul's Chapel, the troops filed onto the commons before the Bridewell and arranged themselves in regimental ranks for inspection. Washington strolled across the head of the formation, swapping salutes with his officers. Later that month, on Tuesday, June 18, 1776, Washington rode to the Queen's Head Tavern, a former warehouse at Pearl and Broad Street. His staff and regimental commanders joined him in the Long Room, the town's most spacious public hall, for a banquet arranged by the New York Convention, the Provisional Congress, in gratitude for the defense of the colony. Innkeeper Samuel Francis kept the libations flowing into the night. He would bill New York £91 for 78 bottles of Madeira and 38 bottles of port, as well as cider, beer, and punch. He also charged 16 shillings for wine glasses broken. 31 toasts were raised, starting with the Continental Army and the American Army. On and on they went, to the colony of New York, to the patriotic citizens, and to the memory of the brave Montgomery. The final toast was drunk to civil and religious liberty to all mankind. All mankind, that is, except Tories. Is a brief snapshot of New York City toward the end of June 1776, as the epic month of July was about to begin. These observations from Rick Atkinson in his new book, The British Are Coming, The War of America, Lexington to Princeton, 1775 to 1777, Volume 1 of his Revolutionary Trilogy.